So the next experiment after the characteristics of PN junction diode is going to be the half wave rectifier circuit, where we are going to construct and analyze your half wave rectifier, and then compare the theoretical and the practical values. Okay, so this is the circuit diagram for it. You can make a note of it because you have to rig it up. The same circuit what we learned, the load resistance is going to change, right? So the load resistance is like 1 kilo ohm, another value will be 5.6 kilo ohm. And what is the wattage? The wattage of the resistor is 0.5 watt. And the resistors whatever we are using, what type are they? What type are they? They're all carbon film resistors. Okay, I think you would have seen the types: carbon film, metal, wire wound. Have you or not? Yes. So whatever we are using is nothing but the carbon film resistor with a wattage of 0.5 watt. So that is all listed here in the bill of materials, right? So whenever the student is writing, he has to specify everything. What is the specification of the resistor? What is going to be its power rating? Then type of it. So this is a circuit diagram. Please make a note. And these are the respective input and output waveform. And the theory, how it works, we have already seen. So the procedure is given. So first what you have to do is, you have to check the diode. Hope all of you know how to check the diode. With what will you check? With the diode tester, that is your multimeter, you have to put it in the diode mode. Okay, and then you have to check for by forward bias and then the reverse bias. Hope you have learnt all that. So that will be the first task that you have to do, checking of the diode. Then what you do, you construct the circuit and the channel 2 of the DSO, you connect it across your RL. Okay, channel 2 you connect it across RL, and channel 1 you connect it across the secondary of your transformer. So channel 1 across the secondary and channel 2 will be connected across your load RL. So now once the circuit is being rigged up, next is what observations to be made or what readings has to be taken. The following parameters for your half wave rectifier. Now what should be the maximum voltage across the secondary? So now I think all of you know the transformer. If I connect it across my secondary and use a multimeter and then check the secondary voltage. Okay, so first multimeter in which mode should I keep? AC. AC voltage mode I should keep. It will read some value. The multimeter will display some value. What voltage is it? Is it an RMS value or maximum value? RMS. So my first job is to find out what is the RMS rating. Okay, that RMS voltage has to be converted to the peak voltage or the maximum voltage. Okay, and we know the relation. Vrms is equal to your Vmax divided by √2. Now from this what do I want? I want the peak voltage or the maximum voltage. So my Vrms into √2. If it is a 15 transformer, it is 15 into √2. I think all of you are given 12. The secondary voltage is 12. So 12 into √2. You find out what is the secondary voltage, then appropriately you multiply with that. Next is, it's rectified. This is only for the secondary side. Now it's rectified. I have to find out the root mean square value of my secondary. So what should I do is, I have to rig up the circuit. I am observing the waveform on the load side. So the DSO will display what is going to be my output voltage. So I will tabulate here what is going to be my VP, that is my peak voltage or the maximum voltage. Then I have to find out the RMS value of the rectified voltage. The RMS value of the rectified voltage can be found as your VP by 2 as such. So this value you would have found, divide by 2, I'll be getting the RMS value. The average or the DC value can be determined as VP by pi. Pi is nothing but our 3.14. So whatever VP you have noted, divided by pi will give me my VDC. Next is an important term called as the ripple factor. The ripple factor is nothing but under root your VRMS by VDC the whole square minus 1. Okay, so that is your ripple factor value. Anybody, can you tell me what is the theoretical value of ripple factor for a half wave rectifier? If you can remember. Theoretical value, because if I have to tally whether practically I am getting it correct or not, I should know the theoretical value. What is the theoretical value? Okay, you can check. Okay, before doing the experiment, first find out what is the theoretical value of the ripple factor for your half wave rectifier. You tell me the value, then practically you do, then you determine this ripple factor by applying this formula. Then we have to check whether the theoretical and the practical values are going to be the same or at least close by. Fine. So next is the frequency of the input. Frequency of the input signal and frequency of the output signal. So that in the DSO channel 1 and channel 2. Anyway, channel 1 I have connected across the secondary. Channel 2 I have connected across the load. From that I will be able to note down the frequency. Okay, so note down and then tabulate the frequency here. Next is, this is for one value of RL. Next, you change your load resistor. I think you are given with 5.7 kilo ohm. So 5.7 kilo ohm, a quarter watt resistor. Replace the load and then find out the maximum voltage. Using the formula, you determine what is your VRMS, your VDC, find out the ripple factor and note down the frequency of your input and then the output signal. So the main idea here is to check for the theoretical and then the practical value of your VP, VRMS, VDC as well as your ripple factor. Okay, as well as my ripple factor over here. So what I want you to do is first check your diode, rig up the circuit. Okay, meanwhile find out what should be the theoretical value of the ripple factor so that it will be helpful for you to tally with the value that you are getting here when you are doing it practically. Clear with this? Any doubts? So just one diode and then a resistor which you have to connect it to your transformer. The transformer also, the plug and then the transformer is given separately. You have to make the connections to the primary side. Okay, the primary side is this. So you have to remove the screws and then connect this to the plug. Okay, and then you use it. Clear? So let's start with the hands-on now. So what we have done previously was we have constructed a rectifier and you also observed the output. It was a half wave rectifier and you observed what is going to be the ripple factor of that half wave rectifier. Now in continuation of that, what we are going to do now is we are going to connect a capacitor to it. That is, we are going to connect a filter to our rectifier. If you can remember or recall, what are the different blocks of your regulated power supply? What were the blocks? Step down, then rectifier, filter, voltage regulator. So now first stage, the rectification is done. Now what you observed was it is not a pure DC. You have some AC signals also present. So now the next stage is going to be your filter, where you are going to remove the AC ripples. right? So for that, we are going to make use of the component which is nothing but the capacitor. Now there's an experiment as per this fundamentals of electronics course where they have to construct and analyze a half wave rectifier with RC filter and then to note the ripple voltage without and then with filter. So without filter only what you have done now. Now if I add a filter to it, it becomes this particular experiment, right? And then to vary the load resistor and note the readings and waveform of the output voltage. And also to vary the capacitor value and note the readings and waveforms of the output voltage. So basically what we did in the morning, it was just we had a load resistor RL. Now we are going to connect the capacitor CL also and vary CL, note down the variations in my output, vary my load resistance and note down the variations in my output. And from that we have to infer what's happening in the, what's the behavior of the circuit based on the variations in my C or my R. Okay, so before getting into the details, let's have the explanation about the circuit. So this is basically the circuit diagram of your half wave rectifier with a filter. Okay, so here we have the AC input coming from the mains given to the step down transformer. You had your diode and to the diode we have connected the RL. So till this part we have finished. So till this it's nothing but my rectifier. Followed by that is the smoothing capacitor which is nothing but my C. So now how this C behaves, that's what we are going to see now. So I have my transformer, then I have my diode, then my RL. So till this it's being done. To this, what am I doing? I am connecting a capacitor. This is the symbol of which capacitor? What type of capacitor is this? Capacitor generally what's the symbol?
Two parallel lines.
Two parallel lines. Specifying it is the two parallel plates separated by a insulator. If I put it in this way, what is it? Electrolytic. It is basically your electrolytic capacitor. So I should specify this is going to be plus and this will be the minus. Okay. So this is my CL basically. Now as we saw, this is from your AC mains. So I have my input signal, step down, I have it in this fashion. Now till this part, it is nothing but your rectifier and this C will act like your filter. The output of your rectifier is this. This is the output of my rectifier. Now, what's going to be the output if I add this capacitive component? That is what we are going to see now. Now, I hope all of you are aware of reactance of a capacitor. Okay, what is the notation for reactance of a capacitor? XC. So, XC is nothing but the reactance of your capacitor. What is the formula for it? 1 by 2 pi Fc. So, where C is the value of the capacitance, F is the frequency. Now, what is the frequency for my DC signal? 0. So, for a DC signal, the frequency is 0. So, if frequency is 0, what happens to the reactance of it? infinity. Okay, the reactance of my capacitor to the DC signal is infinity. Means it is going to block my DC signal. Okay, it will not allow my DC signal, it's going to block my DC signal. Whereas if I consider my AC signal, it has got a frequency. What's the frequency? It is 50 hertz is the frequency. So if I substitute, I will have some value. I will end up in some value depending upon the value of my capacitor. Say my capacitor is some 100 microfarad. 2 into pi into F is 50 into 100 microfarad. 1 by that, I will be having some appreciable value for my reactance. So what does it mean? My capacitor as such, for a DC signal, it offers a infinite reactance. It means it is not going to allow my DC signal to pass through. It will block my DC and allow the AC, because for AC, the reactance is comparatively less. Okay, so what is the job of the capacitor here? In simple words, filter. That's fine, it's filtering, but in which way? It is going to block the DC signal and it will allow the AC signal. Okay, so the DC signal will be blocked by this capacitor and it will allow only the AC signal to pass through. So AC signal passes through this to the ground, whereas DC will be completely blocked. Okay, so your C blocks DC, whereas it is going to allow the AC. Blocks your DC and allows your AC. Hope you understood the idea behind how it is blocking it, because it offers a very high reactance to it. As a result, it will not go through my capacitor at all, the DC signal, whereas the AC signal will be allowed to through my capacitor. Clear? Now, how this is going to filter out and give me my output? Let's check with the waveform. So this is my rectified output. This is my rectified output. And this is passed through my capacitor. So what should happen here? It should charge. My capacitor, basically, what is the job of the capacitor? Charges and discharges. It will charge and then it will discharge. So let me take another color. So initially what happens when this signal is passing through, my rectified signal is passing through, initially it is going to get charged to the peak value or the maximum value. Okay, my capacitor will get charged to this maximum value or the peak value. Now when the rectified signal peak is attained and my capacitor is also totally charged to Vp, after that what happens? There is a dip in my rectified signal. So what should happen to my capacitor? Initially it is discharged to Vp, but now the input that comes to it, it is reducing. So what should happen to my capacitor? It should discharge. So it will start discharging. So my capacitor will start discharging and it will discharge and say it comes to this particular level. Now when it comes to this level, what happens? My next cycle of input has come and it is more than the value of my capacitor. So what should happen to my capacitor once again? It should start charging. Okay, so it should start charging and it will reach the peak level. So once that peak is obtained, what happens? My input is reducing once again. So what should happen to my capacitor now? Discharge. So it should discharge and go like this, right? So it just charges and discharges basically. So this is nothing but your charging cycle. Charging, and this is nothing but your discharging. The time constant basically, your T, it's equal to R into C. This is the time constant. So the time constant is fixed in such a way the discharging will take place for a long time. Otherwise, what will happen? It will charge, discharge. Like this, I think you would have seen such waveforms. Charge and then discharge. Take a period for charging and then discharging. But that's not happening here. It charges to the peak value and it takes a long time to discharge. Then once again, it charges to the peak value and it takes a long duration to discharge. So how that is maintained? That's maintained because of the selection of my R and C values. Okay, it's because of the selection of my RC component, because time constant T is equal to R multiplied by C. That is called as my time constant. So if this is maintained properly, then I can have a long time for my discharging to happen. So this cycle will repeat and my output waveform of this filter will be like this. It charges, discharges. So I'll be getting in this fashion. So imagine this is my axis. This is my, say, time period. This is my amplitude. Okay. It charges, discharges. It keeps repeating in this fashion. Now, is this a pure DC signal? Even now, there are few ripples present. Okay. If it is a pure DC, it should be a straight line. It should be a straight line like this. Even now, it's not a pure DC signal. There is a ripple component present, which we call it as ripple peak to peak. Okay, here VR stands for my ripple peak to peak value. Clear with this? It's not a pure DC, but of course, compared to what was there earlier, it's better. From the ground level, this much of DC component is there. But what's happening is still I have my AC signals present in the form of, say, you can as well tell it's like a triangular shape. That's how we will derive the equations also. Anyway, derivation is not part of our thing. So we will, assume it to be a triangle and then we will be deriving the equations for it. Okay, so this is nothing but my ripple voltage. This is my ripple voltage and it will be given by the notation VR of peak to peak. That is ripple peak to peak. Now the ripple factor for this rectifier with the filter combination, if it is a half wave rectifier, the ripple factor is 1 by 2 root 3 FRLC. Okay, FRLCL. So here 2 root 3, it's a constant. F what will be substitute?
Frequency.
Frequency. What is the frequency? 50 Hertz. RL is nothing but the load resistor. Suppose we have used 1 kilo ohm and 5.6 kilo ohm. So whichever you have used in your circuit, you substituted that appropriately. Then CL. CL we are going to vary now. Okay. We will probably use some 100 microfarad or 470 microfarad. Like that we will be changing the value of the CL. So now in this experiment, that's what I told you, retain your rectifier as it is. Just add one capacitor, whatever value we are going to provide, and observe this particular waveform, right? And then I will give you a tabular column. In the tabular column, you have to make all the readings and tally your theoretical value and then the practical value of the ripple factor. The ripple factor is given by 1 by 2 root 3 FRLC. It's a straightforward calculation. Say if I am using RL is equal to 1 kilo ohms and CL let it be equal to some 100 microfarad. Substitute that, you will get the ripple factor. And your frequency is 50 Hertz. Okay, if you substitute right away, you will get the value of your ripple factor. So theoretically, what is it? And practically, what you are obtaining, we have to tally both the values. Now, just looking at the equation, what inferences can we make? Say, if I am increasing my load resistance, what should happen to my ripple? My ripple factor should decrease. If I'm increasing my capacitance, load capacitance, decrease in the ripple factor. So that is what we are going to tabulate now. We are going to have two different tables. If you are going to do the drawing here, it's not a classroom and you are not a student.
It was inside this.
Okay.
And I was taking it out.
So here we are going to do two different tabular columns. In one, we are going to keep the load resistance constant, say RL, let it be 1K, and vary the CL value. That will be one tabulation. The other, we are going to keep CL constant and vary your R. That will be the other tabular column. And then verify both your theoretical ripple factor as well as the practical ripple factor. Hope it is clear. This is what we are going to do. I will show you once again with the tabular column what exactly is expected. Now, how it works, is it clear for you? So, what does the capacitor do here?
Charges off, it blocks and
It blocks your DC and allows your AC signal. So, the blocked DC just flows through your load resistance RL and because of the charging and discharging of the capacitor, you are able to get that waveform, right? And not only C can be used as a filter, what is the other component that I can use for a filter? Inductor. I can also make use of inductor. But generally we prefer a capacitor compared to that of an inductor. If at all I am using an inductor as a filter, I have to connect it in series or parallel? Series. I have to put my inductor in series. So I'll have it like this. Okay, my L and then my load. I also can have a CLC filter, a combination of capacitor as well as my inductor. So it may be like C, L, like this. So it is C, L, C. Okay, so any combinations we can make use for the filter. Now capacitor we say it is blocking DC and allowing AC. What will be the job of my inductor? Inductor, what is the reactance of an inductor?
2 pi.
2 pi FL. XL is equal to 2 pi FL. So what will the inductor do? So, like you please relate it with how we have done for C. So I'll write the formula. You please relate it for AC what it does and for DC what it does. So XL is 2 pi FL. So for DC, my frequency is 0. So what will be XL? 0. And for AC, my frequency is 50 Hertz. So XL, if I substitute, I'll have some appreciable value for it. Now, as the reactance of the inductor is 0, what will happen if at all I connect an inductor? What will it do? The reactance is 0. So, what it should do? It will allow DC and block the AC. Okay, what it will do? It will allow the DC and block the AC. Just the reversal of what we had for the capacitor. So it will allow DC and block your AC signal. So now if I am putting this in series, what will happen? There is some signal with AC ripples coming. What my inductor is going to do? It will allow only the DC component and it will block the AC component. Right? Along with this, say I am putting one capacitor also. I have an LC filter. Further, what this C will do? It will block the DC and allow the AC. So what will I have ultimately? I'll have a proper DC signal at my output. Okay, so I can either use a capacitor or I can go for a inductor for filter option. But which is generally preferred? Capacitor. Because inductor, it will be bulky, so and expensive and all those factors. So generally we prefer the capacitor. Clear with this? So this is the tabular circuit diagram and then the respective tabular column. So it's the same circuit to which we are going to put a load capacitor. Okay, same circuit to which I have put a load capacitor. Only that is the extra component. You take down the tabular column, then we will see the procedure also what has to be done. So here in the first tabulation, what are we doing? We are keeping RL constant. RL is 1 kilo ohm. And then we are varying the capacitor. Two values I have given, 100 microfarad and 22. You can also try with 470 and all that, 220, 470 and all. And the second one is, I am keeping the capacitor constant and varying the load value. Load 1K and 5.6K. You can also try with 2.2K, your 470 ohms and all that. You can see how the waveform changes. So here what are we tabulating? We are tabulating VP, that is our peak voltage, and ripple peak to peak. So the peak to peak what you get in your CRO, it will be the ripple voltage that it gives. Then if I substitute in this formula, I will be able to get my VDC. VDC is VP minus VR of peak to peak by 2. That will be my VDC. Then VR of RMS. What is VR? Ripple voltage. So the ripple voltage RMS value, because still it is not pure DC, there is some ripple present. So what is the AC component present? The RMS value of it we are finding out. That is equal to ripple peak to peak divided by 2 root 3. These are all derived formulas. Let's not worry about it. It's all derived. So VR of peak to peak divided by 2 root 3 is nothing but the RMS value of the ripple voltage. If you want, I can write here. This is your RMS value of ripple voltage. What do I mean by ripple? Ripple is nothing but this waveform. Okay, this waveform is nothing but my ripple. The peak to peak value of this. That is nothing but my VR peak to peak. Okay, this is still, there is some AC component present, a frequency dependent component present there. So that RMS value is determined using that particular formula, right? And if I find the ratio between VR of RMS and VDC, I get the practical ripple factor. Theoretical ripple factor can be determined by making use of the formula, which is 1 by 2 root 3 into FRLC. Okay, the same thing holds good here also. But what are we doing? We are keeping the capacitor constant and changing the load resistance value. Okay, so you can use the same resistors what you have. If you want, you can also change. You can make some 2.2K and capacitor here you can use say 470 or 220 also, 220 microfarad you can use, and you can see the variations in the ripple. Let's, you take down the tabular column. I will explain you the procedure also. You can use say 2.2 kilo ohms. Have you copied the tabular column? Now let's check for the procedure. Done? We'll just go for the procedure here. So far what we have done is a rectifier, and to the rectifier we have connected a capacitor filter. And also we have done the observation. What happens to my output by changing the value of my capacitor or the load resistance. So what we observed is there was not a pure DC component. We were having something called as the ripples present still. Okay, and moreover what happens, it was an unregulated DC basically. It was not constant. There was an unregulated DC component. Now to regulate this, what do? We go for what is called as the voltage regulators. So if you can recall the block diagram of your power supply, we had the step down transformer followed by a rectifier, then a filter, then you had your voltage regulators. So in the voltage regulators, we also saw what are all the components that could be useful for the voltage regulation. What is number one? Zener diode. The Zener diode can be used for the regulation. Number two, it could be transistor based. Okay, I can have a series transistor based and then I can use it like a voltage regulator. Next, number three, it could be your IC regulators, that is the fixed regulators. And similarly, IC regulator, which will be a variable, a programmable power supply we can build. Last, it could be your SMPS. So now what we are going to do is, to the rectifier we have attached a filter, and to that filter we are going to attach the fixed IC regulator, which is nothing but our 7805. Okay, so as I told you before, 7805, 78 is the series, and that last two digit, it is nothing, defines what is going to be the output voltage that I will get. So when I say 78, seven eight zero five, okay, I can also have 7812. So this is nothing but my series, and the last two digits specifies the output voltage, the DC voltage that I will be able to get. So now to our block where we had a rectifier, filter, we are going to also attach the voltage regulator and then check what is going to be the output. So what should be the output for us if I am using a 7805? 5 volt. Okay, we should be able to get the output to be equal to 5 volt as such. Now before connecting that, we should know what this 7805 is basically. Actually in your experiment, it is a separate one, 7805 itself, load regulation, line regulation. But here we are just trying to construct it like a power supply unit. So for the 7805 IC, the minimum input voltage, it could be 7 volt. So if I want 5 volt, minimum I should give the input to be equal to 7. The maximum input voltage that it can take is 35. So you should handle within the safe limit, 7 to 35. And what is the current rating? That's very important. The current rating of it is 1 ampere. And what's the maximum output voltage? We say it gives me 5, but not always 5. That you can notice when we are connecting the regulator IC. So what is the maximum output voltage it can give? It can give me 5.2, and the minimum output voltage that it can provide is 4.8. Though we say it gives me a constant 5, it may not be 5 all the time. It can vary from say 5.2 to 4.8, right? So these are some of the important specification. I will also show you the data sheet of 7805 where all these specifications are, how to look for it. Okay. So higher the input voltage. So what we saw, the input voltage minimum, it could be 7 anta we are telling. So higher the input voltage, less efficient will be your 7805. Okay, that is one statement. An estimated efficient input voltage would be about 7.5 volt, the minimum. I'm talking about the minimum. So what do we say? Higher the input voltage. What is the highest input voltage that I can provide? 35. So I have my regulator. I have my regulator. Okay. I give an input. I get some output. So the output is all the time say 5 volt. Now what is the minimum value of input that I can give? 7, and the maximum according to the data sheet it says it is 35. But what is the statement that I have given here is the difference in voltage should not be high. Why? Because the difference in voltage will be dissipated as a heat across my IC. So that is the reason we say that we should not give more input voltage to your IC. So if I say 7 volt here, 7 and 5, what's the difference? 2 volt. Imagine my input voltage is 10 volt. 10 and 5, what is the difference? 5 volt. So where is the remaining 5 volt going? It's dissipated in the form of heat in my IC. Imagine I operate with an input voltage of 35 volt. Okay, so 35 volt if I give as an input, 35 minus 5 will be 30. So 30 volt will be dissipated as heat in my IC. So what will happen to my IC? My IC will get heated up. So I should provide something called as the heat sinks in order to protect my IC. Okay, so just because the data sheet says it's 35 volt, it doesn't mean I have to give 35. Right? I should operate it safely such that my IC doesn't get heated up. That also we should take care. So that is what we are telling here. Higher the input voltage, less efficient your IC will be. So as I was telling, 7 or 10, okay, fine, the difference is less. When I say I'm operating with 35 volt as my input, the difference is say equal to 30 volt. So higher my input voltage, less efficient will be my IC. Why is it less efficient? Because the difference in voltage, it just gets dissipated as heat basically. So as a result, my IC voltage regulator will be heated. So you have to provide extra heat sinks. You have to give all those provisions to cool down the device. So that is one issue. Now, if you look at the pin diagram of this 7805, this is the pin diagram of it. You can make a note of it. Okay, 7805, you have a sample. So the IC will be in this form with the numbering facing you. The leads are 1, 2 and 3. 1 is input, 2 is ground and 3 is going to be your output. Okay, so 3 pins will be there with the numbering, or to say the specifications facing you. It's like this. It's like this. And at the back side you have the metal. Okay, so with the number facing you, you start counting the pins as 1, 2 and 3. 1 is input, 2 is ground and 3 is going to be your output basically. Okay, so that is your 1, 2, 3. You can make a note of this and you can circulate this to see. So what are we going to do is, we have our filter circuit, right? We have the, oh, you want the pin diagram? Have you copied the pin diagram? Okay, fine. So as per the list of experiments, you have a separate experiment on 7805 itself, where you will be connecting the IC and then these capacitors, provide a regulated power supply and then you take the output using your DMM. But what we are going to do is, to our filter circuit, we are just going to connect this 7805 with these protection capacitors as such, 0.22 microfarad and then the 0.1 microfarad. So I'll just draw the circuit. So you had your transformer, you had your diode, then your capacitor. Then to this, you connect your 7805 0.22 microfarad. This goes to ground. Then you have your 0.1 microfarad. Then you have your load resistance. Okay. So load, let's say I keep it at 1 kilo ohm. So this is my input pin. Input pin number is 1. 2 is going to
Ground.
ground. Output pin number is
3.
3. So this will be the circuit diagram. Okay. So let's say I put, this is 1N4007 diode. Let's say I take it as 100 microfarad. Okay. I put the capacitor 100 microfarad, and to this I attach my voltage regulator, and then I get my output across my RL. Okay. You can also observe the output in the DSO, or you can connect a DMM, your digital multimeter, and check. What will be the output that I will get? Pure DC, which is going to be a 5 volt. Not necessarily 5. Some may get 4.9 something or 4.8 something, or slightly on the higher side 5.1, because we saw the limit. It can change from 4.8 to 5.2. Like how your resistors have tolerance, this also it can range from 4.8 volt to say 5.2 volts. So here this is an electrolytic, whereas these two capacitors I have not put a polarity. So what does it mean? Ceramic. Both of them are going to be ceramic capacitors. I think you have seen all those ceramic types, how to find out their values. So if I say 0.1, what will be the notation on my capacitor? Will it be written as 0.1 micro there? No. So when I say 0.1, what will be the notation on my capacitor? 104. 104. Okay. So I'll have the capacitor series like this: 104, 103, 102, 101, like that. So what is 104? 0.1 micro. This will be 0.01 micro. 0.001 micro. 0.0001 micro. Like that. Okay. So it's basically 10 power 4 picofarad, which will give me this 0.1 microfarad. I think you have learnt all these things in the fundamental class. Then why you are not giving me the answer? You should give me the answer, right? I am thinking you don't know. So you can make use of this ceramic capacitor. Ceramic capacitors, I think all of you have used. Sir has shared in the group also, right? Values and all that. So fair enough, you can get it from that. So these two are ceramic. Whereas this will be, say, your electrolytic capacitor. Clear? Now let's check the data sheet of this 7805. So this is the data sheet of your LM340 as well as LM7805 series. Okay, so this is basically from Texas Instruments. I think all of us know about the company Texas. Yes. So here you can see the features as well as the packages of your 78 series. So here the first diagram, okay, I have pin number 1, 2 and then 3 is nothing but this cap itself. It comes as a TO3 package. What is TO3? What does TO stands for? Transistor outline. Okay, transistor outline. DO stands for diode outline. Okay, similarly TO stands for your transistor outline. So TO3 package, that's nothing but a metal casing. whereas this is TO220, where I have it with the plastic package. That is what we are using. These are all for your SMTs. SOT is nothing but your SMT. This is another TO263, that is also for your SMT packages. Okay, so here the body size, the dimensions and all given. Here we have the applications of it. What are the application? It can be useful for your industrial power supplies, SMPS, in your HVAC, AC. Then you can have for test and measurement, brushed and brushless motors, then solar energy string inverters. So now here are the features of this particular IC that is being listed. And here you can show it says a maximum output current up to 1.5. It's addressed for all of the ICs 340 as well as for 7805 series. And it is given 7805 family wide. Family wide andre 7805 is available, 7812 is available, 7815 is available. Means it gives me 5 volt, 12 volt as well as the 15 volt at the output. This is the circuit what we are trying to do. The simple circuit what we are trying to do is this one. Yeah. What's given here? The bottom circuit, what is given in your sheet here, okay, fixed voltage where I have the regulator, ground pin, then the input capacitor and then the output capacitor. That is what we are connecting to our filter basically. And here you can see the electrical characteristics. This is the electrical characteristics of 340 followed by, this is for your, one second, these are all 340. And this is for your 7805 electrical characteristics. You can see here the output voltage. Output voltage minimum it's 4.8, typical is 5, means ideally it should give me 5. Minimum it is 4.8, maximum it can go till 5.2 volt. Under this condition where Vin is lying between 7.5 and 20, okay, I can have the input output ranging from 4.75 to 5.25. So all these are listed in the data sheet itself. So this is one thing what we have to look for, output voltage. And also we have to check for the line regulation and load regulation, which I will tell you later. Next up, what is that important is the temperature. Where is the temperature listed here? No. And here it is given, all characteristics are to be measured with 0.22 microfarad from the input to ground and 0.1 microfarad from output to ground. So that is what we have done there. In our circuit also what did we do? 0.22 microfarad we have attached from input to the ground and 0.1 microfarad we have connected at the output point to ground. So as per the data sheet only we are following and then we are giving the inputs. Here I have this dropout voltage. Okay, dropout voltage, it can be typically 2 volts. So that's the reason why we say we can give some say 7 volt as the input minimum and what is the output we will get? 5. So 7 minus 5 is going to be 2 volts. So that is nothing but your dropout. If I give more than that, what happens? It gets dissipated in the form of heat in your IC. So if I go for higher and higher voltage, then the efficiency of my IC is reduced. Say if I operate with the input of 30 volt, so 30 minus 5, 25 volt will be difference. So that gets dissipated in the form of heat as such. Clear? So we have to look for these parameters, the output voltage as well as the dropout voltage, also the regulation factors which we will discuss later. Rest all it's not required. These are all with respect to the curves. And here when you check for the applications, you can have many circuits here listed. Okay. For the usage of this 78 series ICs, you have lot of applications listed. So you can explain to your students, a detailed account is given here. You can explain to your students and then you can make the applications also to work. So you can see here, typical application, fixed output voltage regulator, that is what we will be doing. Then some examples like I have a current regulator, we have a adjustable output regulator with the same thing. Then you have a high input voltage circuit with a series resistor here. Then a high input voltage circuit implemented with a transistor. So all those things, once they understand the 7805 IC and it's working, you can try any of these applications. All the values, what should be the output, everything is given here. You can try the applications. So and here also you have LM340 used with negative regulator LM79XX. So this circuit I think you would have seen in many places where I will have a positive voltage as well as a negative voltage. Rest are all it is for the layout guidelines. So this I wanted to show you so that the application circuits will also be there in the data sheet. Not only the electrical and then the mechanical parameters, the application circuits will also be there if you go for your integrated circuits. So those applications you can make your students to do basically. Okay, clear with this?